American truckers are now joining the Canadian truckers. This is no longer now just a Canadian protest. This is an American protest as well. Now, folks, this is again protesting the vaccine mandates, but it goes beyond this because this is going now into the whole policy around lockdowns in general. And also public support around them is growing. This is no longer also just a trucker protest. This is a popular movement. This is a popular movement. And people are coming out in droves to support the truckers. The truckers are kind of like the flag, essentially, of this populist movement that's now growing. Now, I'll read you a quote. This is from Brian Von D. He's the administrator to Convoy to D.C., as in Washington, D.C., 2022. And he said this during a live video on Facebook, and he said that they are now joining forces. He said they're joining forces with the Canadians, and they will drive from California to Washington, a nationwide protest going from, remember, it started in Canada. This is now the American protest, and the Canadian and American protesters have joined forces. They're going to be driving from California to Washington. He says that as they move to support, now he's saying this also as they're moving to support the Canadian truckers. So they're moving to support the Canadians. America is next. And his exact quote on that video is, "America is next." Now, he said this as well. He says, as the Canadian convoy, and he says, quote, moved from west to east, the American truckers, he's saying, quote, have been filtering into this convoy, and it is absolutely massive. It is known worldwide. It is the largest thus far. Now, again, they're protesting against the vaccine mandates. This is, again, happening during a shipping crisis. You might remember I did a whole episode focused on this, so I won't go over it too much again, but it does relate to this. Does anybody remember the recent episode I did where I was talking about this alert that went out from the Washington, D.C. Homeland Security? It was a D.C. Homeland Security alert, meaning an official alert. And it basically said that you might be noticing when you're going to the stores that there were empty store shelves, empty grocery stores. That suddenly there's this crisis where there's not enough food. And the DC Homeland Security alert, and I showed you this I won't go over the whole thing again, but I showed you this last time. This DC Homeland Security alert was advising people to only buy what they need. What does that mean? It means we had an official statement saying that food shortages are being caused by the shipping crisis. Food shortages, going to your local store, watching rising meat, costs of meat or other groceries. I know where I'm at, I'm paying at least maybe 2/3 more. It's not even double more than I used to pay, just watching prices. Not sure how it is where all you are at. But this is now entering the forefront. Official government alerts saying that, yes, it's happening and it's being caused by the shipping crisis. This is now known. The protest focuses public attention. It is now linking the food crisis and the shipping crisis to the vaccine mandates and policies. In other words, this issue that it's now hitting homes where people can see it's happening. People are now connecting this, right? It's an idea of how you interpret information. How do you interpret the narrative of things? This is a grassroots shifting of the narrative. Basically now, this focuses the public narrative about the food crisis and the shipping crisis on government overreach and vaccine policy. It's now saying that the cause of this, the reason there's a shipping crisis, the reason why that's happening, the reason why you have to not buy too much food, as the DC Homeland Security alert says, to not buy more than you need. The reason for that is because of the local government policies being made, mandating vaccines for truck drivers, for example, and other people are joining us now, so it's no longer just truck drivers, and also the vaccine mandates and lockdown policies overall. And folks, this is happening right ahead of the midterm elections.